Ois Gimel. The Rebbe discussed that the main hamshocha of higher than hishtalshelus comes through tefillah, and through tefillah, through davening, it comes out also in Torah, as the Rebbe showed from the psukim that the pasuk that is brought in the Pirkei Avos, Torah Shebal Peh, for the idea that even Echad Yeshiv Lemed is a pasuk which really talks about tefillah, about davening. So in Torah Shabbat Peh, we interpret it as Torah, but in the pasuk it's tefillah. And the Rebbe says the same thing is about the rabbim, the Asara Shieshvin, that we learn out Torah from the level of tefillah, or through tefillah, which is the main hamshocha from higher than hishtalshlus and is beyond the halah, that's mainly in davening. And from the davening, it's nimshach, it goes afterwards in the Torah. And the Rebbe is now going to discuss. So it seems that the key is because davening comes mitzad disarusu deletato. But l'chayre, there is also the sarusa de latata hala asman by the level of tefillah. And the Rebbe is going to explain that, yes, there is hala asman, but it's not, it's still the mitzias of the person. Torah is b'havona v'hasoga, is understanding. And even when you learn more than your understanding, but it's still connected to understanding, so it's not the level of subjugation, the level of bittul. Dafke by tefillah, by davening, is the level of isarusa delatata in total bittul that is mamshich, the level of higher the ishtalshlus. Gimel. V'hagam shehamayla dehalo asman. Even though that the advantage that you bring up the mayim nukvim, the feminine water, meaning isarusa deletato, yeshna l'chayra gam b'Torah, that seems to be also in Torah. K'mevu er b'hamaimer debal ha'geula, as explained in the Maimer of the Friedrich Rebbe debal ha'geula, who, because this Maimer is still Tezvav Tammuz, this is during the celebration of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. So he says, "Shegam b'Torah tzarich liyes avoda v'yigia." That also in Torah there needs to be work and effort. You got to work hard in Torah. So that's an investment from the person. That's a lost man. But still, Iker ha'inyan da'amshocha shalamaylo mehishtalshalus, the main idea of being able to draw down from higher than ishtalshalus, who al yidei halo as man the tefillah, that is specifically by elevating and bringing up the mayim nukvim of davening. Specifically the davening, that's the main halo asman that brings down the hamshocha from higher than ishtalshalus. Why is that? The Rebbe is going to explain now the difference between the halos man from Torah and the halos man from Tefillah. Kudas Habir was the point, the explanation about in this. Shahamayla da avodas ha'adam halos man. What is the advantage that we say that the person's service, which is halos man, the involvement, the investment, when the person works, that's the halos man. The main maila of the work of the person, shal yoda nimshach oirin sof shel maila mehishtalshlus, through which the oirin sof shel maila mehishtalshlus is drawn down. He be'iker k'sha'avoida he bebitl. It's mainly when the work and the service is with subjugation. The inyan habitl ba'avodas hatfilo. The service and the idea of bitl is the service of tefillah. So therefore, bitl, the part of bitl of halas man is which draws down the level of oidin sof l'mayla meishtalshalus, and real bitl is ba'avodas hatfillah. Because shayigi abelimud haTorah, because when a person puts an effort in the study of Torah, yes, it's work, but it's not negating his mitzias, because he needs to understand that that is his mitzias, that is his entity. Kivon she'inyan halimud hu. Sheyovim v'yasig masha loimet, since the idea of the study is for him to understand and grasp that which is he's learning. Lochein hayegiya b'Torah, therefore the effort you put into Torah. And the Rebbe adds now, even the effort that you put in an extra time more than you're used to, you break yourself to review your studies, as the Gemara says, it's called an Ovid Elikim when you reviewed 101 times more. So even the extra effort that you put in to break yourself to learn more is gam hayigi, which includes the ingia, the shoy napir kamei apam. He learns his chapter, he learns his study 101 times. Although this effort, it's not only to understand the Torah more, but the reason he learns an extra time is in order to change the nature and what he is accustomed to. So that's a level of bittul, breaking himself. But this is not the true idea of bittul. True bittul is with davening. When learning, this is not really bittul. Why? Kivon shegam halimud depam hameya ve'echad hubavona v'asoga. Because also the study of this 101st time is with understanding and grasping. So, yes, to get there, he breaks himself. It is bittul, but it's not really bittul because he's still learning the 101 that is also with understanding, also with his mitzias. Main self-negation, self-effacement, bittul, is when the service of davening. The person that who davens is like a servant in front of the master. And the Rebbe adds more to it. Sometimes you daven in order that the Torah should be properly. We know that if you one who says, I'm going to learn only Torah, he doesn't even have Torah. So he's davening so he can learn Torah. Even that prayer, which is for Torah, isn't also the total bittul. And we can say, even if he davens, this is a service area of davening. Technically, it's bittul. It's a rusa dilatat. However, if he is davening for the learning of Torah, which means the kol one who says, I'm just learning Torah, he doesn't even have Torah. So he has to daven in order to learn Torah. That davening, which is for the purpose of learning Torah, kivon shahat tefillah, he bishvil hat Torah. Since his davening is for the Torah, which is understanding and grasping, that tefillah is not really truly bittul, because it is for Torah to grasp. So iker ha'inyan the hamshocha shalamaylo meishtalshlus. That's why the main idea to draw down from above ishtalshlus umikol shikein hamshocha shalili ferach halah And of course, this other part that we said, there's two parts. First, you're getting l'mayla mishtalshlus. That comes through the Avodas HaTfilah. And number two, you get a hamshocha which is uncomparable to the ha'alah. So both of these powerful responses in hamshocha this is through bringing up the mayim nukvim of tefillah. This unique to the mayim nukvim da Avodas HaTfilah. Through this, it also comes to Torah that when the person has after his davening and in his Torah, he gets that level of bittul too. But the Torah also has to work. But the avodah of the Torah, he goes through now the three steps that we talked about. In Torah, avodah the tefillah shebetfilah shila Torah. First, the davening, avodah, is actually davening, but it's for Torah. Ulamata mizena, lower than this, is avodah the shoyna pirka mei pamim ve'echad b'dei l'shanis teviv v'regilusay, learning the service of learning his chapter 101 times. That is done in order to change his nature and what he's accustomed to. That work, it's a lower, it's not as the davening for Torah, but this is already also within Torah a level which is not just for understanding Torah, but it's to break his nature, to change his nature. And even lower, the effort in trying to understand Torah. So when the person works in Torah, and the Rebbe enumerates all these three levels, HaTorah shaloimet, then the Torah that he learns, he kli lamshocha shalomayla mishtalshul shadei tfilos. Then it becomes a vessel to that which is extended from above ishtalshlus through the davening. The davening brings it down. And then the avodah in Torah makes it into a vessel to receive that level. So this is still along the lines that we've tried to explain, the Rebbe was explaining. It's really, everything is about tefillah. Tefillah is what has the power to be mamshech. The Rebbe explained now, because tefillah is the idea of bittul. And the real way to get down from higher, to get it hamshach from above ishtalshlus. And the idea that the hamshach is shaloi le'erech, the investment of the serusa de latata is by tefillah. Through tefillah, we get it into Torah too, but you got to work by Torah also. To daven for Torah, and to learn more than your nature, which is the shanis teva or gilusay, to change your nature, and then to actually offer it in the Torah. That makes him a keli to get the hamshacha. The Rebbe now is going to explain it. That year, when the Rebbe gave the Maimer, so the Maimer tefshemem beis. There's, of course, Yud Tamuz is also the previous Rebbe's birthday in the year Tafresh Mem. So the Tillim that you say for every year, it changed from Kapitel Kuv Beis to Kapitel Kuv Gimel. The Rebbe is going to connect the idea that side the Kapitel Kuv Beis begins with Tefillah and ends with Torah, and also Kuv Gimel. And that is the same idea as the Rebbe will explain, that the tefillah is the main, and that's the beginning. And it's through the tefillah that we get the hamshacha also in the Torah. Look inside. Dalet. Behold, inyan ze shal yidei hatfillah nimshach achar kach gam b'Torah that we're discussing here. That first is through the tefillah that you're mamshich the level of higher than ishtalshlus. And then later on, this extends also in Torah. Merumas gam b'shnei hakapit lachtilim hashayachim liyom ha'yoledes. This is hinted in the two chapters of Tehillim which are associated to the Yom HaYoledes of the Friedrich Rebbe, the Bal Hagula B'Shon Hazu, Tov Shemem Beis. And the Rebbe note says that even brings down that even though the kapitel is from the past, but it's still present. There's a connection. The kapitel kuf beis shesaimu shesimu loimer be'erev yom ha'yoledes. You finish saying kapitel kuf beis on the erev yom ha'yoledes that was on Yud Aleph Tamuz when you said kuf beis. Ube kapitel kuf gimel and kapitel 103 sheschilu loimer b'yom ha'yoledes that we started to say on Yud Beis Tammuz, Tavshim and Beis, the next kapitel. So the Rebbe now first is going to explain the first kapitel and Kuv Beis and then Kuv Gimel. The Mizber Kuv Beis Maschil Be'inyan Tefillah. The Mizber Kuv Beis also it begins there with the idea of Tefillah. The Tefillah is Tefillah Le'oni. That's the prayer and a prayer for an Oni. Going with Ubit Tefillah Atzmo. So, and within davening, it's not just ordinary tefillah, it's a total bittul dike tefillah. Tefillah atzma, but tefillah shebetachlis habittul, it's a prayer which is totally self-effacement, a totally bittul. What is the prayer? The prayer of Kuv Beis is tefillah la'oni ki yativ v'lifnei havaya yishpech siche. So the poor person prays, he wraps himself up, and before Hashem he pours out his talk, he speaks to Hashem. So what does that mean? So the Baal Shem Tov teaches that itself is his prayer, and that is all is to pour his out. He doesn't have anything he's requesting. His tefillah is lifnei haba yishpech sichei. His prayer is to be able to stand before Hashem. Kuteres HaBaal Shem Tov hayidua ala posik, as the Baal Shem Tov is known teaching on this verse. Shetfilas ha'oni shelifnei haba yishpech sichei. That's his prayer. Tefillah le'oni is so that he could stand there and pour out his talk before Hashem. So this is a total idea of effacement, of non-having any personal needs to pray for, but only to pray to be able to daven to Hashem. That's all what his prayer is. The fact that he's not asking nothing, he doesn't have any request, not even spiritual matters. And all that he wants is to pour his heart before Hashem. That is the powerful, the great subjugation of self, lack of self. He has no need for anything for himself, so he's only praying to Hashem. So that's tefillah of the highest level. The Rebbe brings down in a bracket now that this is also connected to the Alter Rebbe's prayer, and since the Alter Rebbe davened that, he also gave this power to all of the Hasidim. That kind of a davening, as described over here by the Baal Shem Tov in this Perek Tehillim, as the famous daven, the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe said that he doesn't need anything, he just wants Hashem alone. Let's look inside. V'yesh loymar, the Inyan said, this idea, that he's not, doesn't want and doesn't ask nothing. Gam lo inyonim ruchnim, doesn't even want spiritual matters. All what he wants is to pour his heart to daven and to speak before Hashem. Who al derech ha'ava, this is similar to the love of the posik that David sells, the mili b'ashamayim v'imchol chafatzti, that what is there to me in the heavens, and whatever is with you I don't desire. And to use the language that the Alter Rebbe said, Ich will ze gar nicht. See, I want nothing. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Gan Eden. Ich will nicht dein Olam haba. I don't want your world to come chulu. Ich will mer nicht as dich allein. All what I want is you alone. He doesn't want anything. That's a symbol. That's the love of Mili Bashomayim Imchol Chafatzti. V'yeshloimar. The Rebbe says that Al Yidei Sha'omar Admur Hazokin. When the Alter Rebbe said, "Ich will mer nit as dich allein." All what I want is just you yourself. Ubefrat la'acharei shenisparsem za'adei tzemach tzedek. And especially after he said it, and especially after it was publicized through the Tzemach Tzedek, niten hakoyach lekol echad ve'echad shehoilech beikvosov. So the power was given to each and every one that goes in the footsteps of the Alter Rebbe, was halt sich in der klamke, that if you're holding on to the knob handle, meaning you're just connected even on the outside, you're just holding on to the door handle. So as it pertains in actuality, maybe not in the feeling, in the emotion to really feel that, but you should have in practical, as it expresses itself, you should have similar to that, having that special prayer request, and that to connect with Hashem alone, especially by learning the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, and how much more so learning this specific saying of the Alter Rebbe that he only wants Hashem, Mili Bashamayim V'imchol Chafatzti. Learning about this, that way you unite with a wonderful and a exceptional kind of a union with these teachings of the Alter Rebbe. By learning this, and through his teaching you connect with the Alter Rebbe himself, and then you get that level, at least as it's Negei Lemaisa. In any event, we're talking about that the capital Tehillim, Tefillah L'Oni Ki Yativ Lifnei Hashem Yishpech Sichai, is a level of total devotion, total bittul to Hashem. So that's the first part of the Mizmer, of the chapter of Tehillim. Behemshech HaMizmer Eimer, and in the following, in the Mizmer, it says, Tikosev Zeis L'Deir Achrin, let this be written for the last generation. So now we're talking about being written down, which is the idea of Torah Shebiksav, the Koya la Torah shehi nitzchis. And this is referring to the Torah which is eternal. So what is the connection between this davening on this highest level to writing it down that it should be nitzchis? But the way the Rebbe explained that it's through the level of bittul of Torah, you're being mamshich. Here you're being mamshich, the level to kosev zeisla der achren. It's more than just writing. Over here it has to be engraved, because if you write something, eventually it can get erased. But in order to have nitzchias, that's through the level of chakika. The level of chakika comes from the level of Keser, which the Torah is over there in the level of Chakika, to come down into this world. It's through the Tefillah La'oni that you get this level in Torah. Let's look at what it says inside. What's the connection, the tie between these two ideas? What is the idea, eternity of Torah? That the Torah that he learns remains engraved, chakuka. It's chakuka in his heart and mind, his mind and heart. If you learn the Torah in a way of chakika, then it lasts. Then, if you learn in such a way, then there could be no change, then there's nitzchis, there's eternity. So, b'chdei shalimud ha'Torah shelo yiyeh ba'ofen dechakika. So in order that the Torah should be to kosef l'der achren, to learn in a way of chakika, and without changes, should be chakika sh'lo yibayim the chakika, who al yidei hakdamas avedis hatfilo, that is through introducing first you daven, and through the aveda, the service of davening, and then you can learn the level of Torah in a way of chakika. The point of the explanation in this, the inyan hachakika the Torah hu beikir b'haTorah kemoshi b'shorsha. The main idea of the engraved of Torah is in the Torah as it is in his root. Bebchinas hakeser shalamayla mechochma. That's in the level of keser, which is beyond chochma. Ula'achrei chochma in atzilus. This is in the level of keser, higher than atzilus. That is where Torah is in the level of chakika. And after it has extended and dressed up, the Torah Keser came down to the level of Chochma L'maylo. And of course, this takes place after it descends and dresses up in the human intellect, then it's no longer Chakika, then it's in a way of Kesiva. The Torah in Keser is Chakika. The Torah as it descends becomes Kesiva. It's written. So how do we have the Torah that we learn with understanding and grasping that it should be in a way of engraved? The Torah, that's by bringing down, drawing down the root of Torah, Keser ba'Torah Shalmat and Torah below. So we have to bring down Keser into this world. So, and that's accomplished first through Avedis HaTfilo, that we can get this level of Chakika, the level of Keser in the Torah that the person learns. And we can say, the Zeu Mashekosov Tikosiv Zois L'Deir Achra. It's a future tense. It shall be written down, which means the person by himself only has Torah on the level of Kesiva. But Tikosiv Zois L'Achren, to get it written in a way of Chakika. Torah the Pasuk uses the word Tikosiv, but it's a Chakika writing, because it's a Nitzchizdike writing. In order to get it later on is Tikosiv Zois L'Deir Achren through the Tefillah L'Oni, but that's why the Lashon is Tikosiv Lashon Osud. In the future, B'chdei Sha'Torah Shaloimed Tiye Etzle B'chinas Nitzchis, that in order the Torah should be by him Nitzchis L'Deir Achren, Tzorich L'Hagia L'Dargas HaChakika the Torah. So you need to reach, it will be written, it's something you got to get to, future, Shalomaylo Mebchinas Ksiva, to that level of Chakika the Torah to Keser, which is higher than Ksiva. Unahamshich Mishom B'chinas Ksiva the Torah, to bring down from there, from Keser, the Ksiva the Torah, to Kosev Loshen Osid. This will be written in the future. Right now, you have to get to the level of Keser. It'll be written, it'll be Chakika. But you need that level. That's going to come later on, so it's to cost you in the future. And this is the connection from the beginning of the Perek of the level of the Tefillah, the highest level of Tefillah, which is total bittul, to this Tikosov L'Oyer Achron. Those L'Oyer Achron. V'zui HaShayches, the Tikosov Zeis L'Oyer Achron, L'Tefillah L'Onichulu. Sha'idei HaGdoves HaBittul L'Tefillah. Through the introduction first of bittul of tefillah. Ubefrat kshatfilo hi betachlis habittul. Generally, first davening and then tefillah, but especially at this level of tefillah. Tefillah lo lifnei Hashem yishpech sichai. It's a tachlis habittul shetfilosi. Now, what is he davening? Shelifnei hava yishpech sichai, so you should pour out his ab b'fnei Hashem. Ayidei zeh hu mamshich gilui nesof. This is the way that he brings down the revelation of Ein Sof Heid in Shtalshlus through that high level of davening in level bittul. This Hamshocha later on follows that also his learning of Torah to Kosiv Zeisla Achrein, that he gets the level of Chakika in his Limud Torah, and there is the Nitzchias because he learns the Torah of um, in a way of Chakika, and that is the Nitzchias HaTorah. And this all comes through the Tefillah La'oni that he has first, the idea of Tefillah. So we see from all this that the main Hamshocha comes through Tefillah. Tefillah is the real level of Bittul Torah, even though it's Yigia, and it's even though it's changes his nature, and even when he davens for Torah, it's all about Hasoga, but the real Bittul is through davening, and the Bittul of davening, eventually, when the learning of Torah is done through the levels also of Yigia and more than Tavarigilose and davening for that, then it gets to that level also. So this is the Perikuf base in Tehillim. The next ois the Rebbe will explain the Perikuf Gimel, how it also has these two ideas. It starts off with the level of tefillah, and also on a very high level of tefillah, but eventually the pasuk talks about alludes to the level of Torah, which is the Amshocha of Tefillah that comes down to Torah, as we'll continue further on.